In this History Illustrated video, we're going to take a look at the introduction of slavery into the 13 American colonies. And it started out much the same way that indentured servants started out. So I'm going to go ahead and illustrate that real quick just to refresh us. It started out with the idea of a plantation or a very large farm. Now, these very large farms typically grew cash crops. Things like what you would see in this field here, cotton, or the very first cash crop in the New World being tobacco, grown in Jamestown. So, these very large farms or plantations would need a lot of workers. And as you can imagine, there's not a whole lot of people in Jamestown or Virginia yet, so they have a shortage of workers, which means they do not have enough workers. So these farmers had to turn to other places to get people there. So most of these early people coming over were indentured servants from Europe, and they would owe money or be in debt to get to the New World. So they didn't have enough money to get there. So oftentimes farmers would pay for their passage over and they would owe them money. So in exchange for that, they would sign a contract like you see here saying, I'll work for a certain number of years and I will do everything you ask. So essentially, they're signing away their freedom. They no longer have freedom to do what they want until the contract is over. So after a certain number of years, these guys would get their freedom and then they would be free to go start their own farms. And then the original farmer here would now be without workers again. So he's back into the same boat he was, still having a shortage of workers. So he had to figure out something else to do. So as you can imagine, indentured servants, the idea of it didn't last too long in the American colonies. They were very quickly looking for slaves, which is what the next step was. And they typically went to Africa. They got African slaves. Now, the farmers saw many benefits to having African slaves as opposed to indentured servants. For example, they didn't speak the language, so they couldn't communicate. This made it difficult for them to escape. And the idea that they had no knowledge of the surrounding areas that would make it very difficult for them to escape as well. And on top of it, the skin color being different from other Europeans, they would be easy to recognize. So they could be able to tell that they were slaves and be able to keep up with them. So they would be able to keep these guys in bondage for their entire life. So they never got their freedom. They would be enslaved for their entire life, and the farmers would now never have to look for workers again. So the idea of slavery being introduced into Jamestown was simply because there was a shortage of workers and they wanted to find a way to make a lot of money or profit. It was very profitable for them to have slaves so they wouldn't have to pay for anybody. All right, go ahead and take a look at my YouTube channel and subscribe when you get a chance, and visit historyillustrated.net if you get a chance as well.